So, AI agents. I want to make this video to really help anybody that is trying to figure out what AI agents are, really understand how they are supposed to work and what they can be used for. I'm kind of new to this space still, and I've been doing this for several months now, but there was a lot of confusion when I was trying to figure out how to use AI agents and what that term really meant. So I'm making this video for anyone that is looking to understand AI agents and really just for where I was at, for anyone that's in that same situation, how to understand the technology that is AI agents, what that actually means, and how you can use that to not only automate your own business, but maybe help someone automate their own. So if that sounds like you, this video is for you. So we are going to dive in here and really at first we're just going to talk about this blue ocean opportunity, right? There is a huge opportunity with AI agents and what they can do for businesses, for your own workflows and your own processes. So the real opportunity here is that this market is going to be huge here in the next 10 years. It is pretty much going to be doubling in size every 2 years. So there is a massive amount of opportunity and a huge amount of growth that is going to be happening when it comes to AI agents and what this technology is. And you can kind of see that already with new tools being released week over week, month over month, and things are just accelerating at a rapid pace. This is a really cool technology that allows people to get more back for their time, get more out of their inputs, and be able to do things a lot quicker and with much more efficiency than we've really ever seen before, at least in the age of the internet. So we're going to start with what AI agents are not, right? And I think that that's important to understand that and get rid of any preconceived ideas or expectations that you might have of AI agents. So this is really important because everyone explains them wrong, right? Everyone has some really convoluted ways of explaining them, and this is just a clear version that I wish I had explained to me when I was first starting out. So most explanations are useless. They're going to be too technical. They're going to be too vague, and they're going to be too magical. There's going to be too much fluff and useless jargon around it. So when we talk about it, we want to understand a few things about AI agents. One is that they are not perfect memory bots. They are not going to remember everything. They're not going to know everything. They are also not going to perform as well as employees. There's a lot of people going around saying that they are able to be a replacement for employees and they're going to be able to take people's jobs. I don't believe that, and I don't buy into that. Human capital is very important for businesses. Humans are able to make decisions. They're able to understand emotions. They're able to understand things on a very human level, and that's really what business is. It is humans helping other humans. So machines aren't going to be able to do that in a way that feels natural. There's going to be some nuance there when it comes to emotions, judgment, decision making, risk, and we'll get more into that. But the AI agents, I mean, maybe we'll get there. I don't know, but we're not there right now. So don't have any expectation for that about being able to replace your employees with AI agents. That's it. We're not there yet. They also are not magic. You're not going to be able to wave a magic wand across your business and fix all of your problems, right? They are not decision makers. They're not going to be able to make decisions on their own. They're going to be able to decide things based on predetermined requirements that you've given it already. But outside of that, it's not going to be able to make a new decision and use judgment in that way. They're also not self-correcting. They are not going to be able to course correct and go back and do any sort of damage control or be able to do quality control on their own. They are not going to be able to do that as well. And they're also not going to be a replacement for your SOPs. You are not going to be able to go and record an SOP or be able to implement some sort of procedure and then just have your AI agent take that over, right? You can have parts of it, you can have data move and things like that, but there's not really going to be a full-on replacement for it. You're still going to have things and be able to enhance your SOPs with that where humans are still in the loop, but they're not I don't want you to think that all AI agents are going to be able to replace all of your SOPs. There may be some instances where that's true, but as a generality, it's not. So AI agents, right? There's three parts of them. The first one is they're going to do some thinking. then they're going to make a decision, and then they're going to act on that decision. And that's really going to come down to basically a system where AI makes decisions and takes actions, right? So when this thing happens, the AI is going to create or decide to do this, and then this output is going to be created, and this action is going to be taken. So it's a very simple if this, then that type of formula, and we'll have some AI inputs in there in terms of being able to decide what requirements are being met or not being met, and what type of outputs need to be created with AI as well. So the main thing that AI agents are really, what really make them special is going to be their memory, right? And this is what the agent knows. So you can break the memory into two different categories. You've got the short term and the long term. The short term is going to remember any of the last 10 inputs that have been put into it, anything you've already been talking to it with, right? So this is just like a brief history. You can kind of think of this as like your ChatGPT history, right? You've got that one chat, it remembers everything in that one chat. You go and start a new chat, it kind of deletes itself, right? But it does remember everything that you've been talking to in that same window. And that's what the short-term memory is. It's that window that you can set. It could be your past 10 inputs. It could be your past 20 inputs. It could be only your past 5 if you wanted to, right? But that helps the agent remember some of the past interactions and be able to have a context window. And that works really well when you're chatting with customers or trying to build on an existing conversation with them. Things they've already said to the agent, they can recall that and be able to understand and have that context window. And then you've got the long term. And the long term is really more of a data set. And that data is going to be able to be referenced, and it's going to have that information where you can use that data to perform actions, and it can function more as a brain. So it has all this information at its disposal to be able to interact with and make decisions with, and be able to use that to produce more outcomes, better outcomes, more accurate outcomes, or more contextually relevant outcomes as well. Now we've got reasoning. Reasoning is the second part of this that makes AI agents really, really special, and that's really the large language model that it is using to be able to make those decisions and rationalizations. So that is going to help it interpret things, it's going to help it choose what actions to take next, and it's going to help it make better plans and be able to produce better outcomes. So anytime a customer requests this type of service, any specific type of service, for example, you're going to quote a minimum of $800, no matter what the budget they submitted for that quote request was, right? And that's interpreting that based on that requirement that you've given it. It can go through, it can understand the service that was given, whether it's of a specific category or a specific service in general, and then be able to understand what the budget is and create a quote that is, again, giving them a minimum of $800. And the last function here is going to be your action layer. The action layer is the tools that it essentially controls and interacts with, whether that is your email, your CRM, your APIs for other platforms. Maybe it's messages. Maybe you're creating new tasks for other employees. Maybe you're creating any sort of media, whether it's written or visual media, or maybe you're creating a proposal, right? As we just used in our last example. That is going to be the action layer. That is our final outputs when we talk about AI agents. So we use a 4S framework here to really help us understand what these agents do and how they work, right? So we've got our state, our strategy, our steps, and our sandbox. So the state is going to be the conditions at which anything is changing, or the state at which something is going to trigger our agent to take action, right? So what conditions does our agent work under? The second one is the strategy, and that's really what we're trying to get out of that particular trigger, if you will. So what actions are going to happen, and why are we doing this, and what is our specific goal? What are we really trying to get out of this agent? And then we've got the steps to do that. So maybe our goal is to be able to provide accurate quotes. So the steps for that are going to be able to understand the requirements for that job. So understanding the inputs that a customer gives us for the quote, understanding the minimums for quotes and prices for that, being able to understand exactly what those services timelines are to provide accurate expectations for how long it's going to take for a customer, so on and so forth. And then the last one is the sandbox, right? So in this example of the proposal builder, the sandbox is going to be the tool that's creating that proposal. It could also be the email, it could be the messaging, whatever we're going to use to send that proposal over as well. But the sandbox is just a fancy way of saying the tools that we're using to perform these steps. So you can think about that when you are trying to draft an AI agent and plan out what that agent is going to do and how you're going to implement that agent. So we've got some real life examples here. So I think it's really important to talk about examples in some real life situations that you can apply AI agents to. So example one is going to be a lead follow-up agent, right? You'll have leads that come in. You can check your CRM data for that lead and figure out exactly what services they're interested in, be able to draft an initial message that is catered to that lead and their specific requirements and what they're interested in for your business, and then to send that initial message to your lead so that they are contacted immediately with the relevant information for what they inquired about. And then you can follow up with that lead if no response is received in X amount of time, right? And we've got the CRM data to check and make sure that we haven't received a response in there as well. Example number two could be a simple inbox sorting agent. So if you are managing your business primarily through email or anything primarily through email, you can go and have the agent read your messages. You can have it categorize those messages. It can create relevant drafts to those messages based on the context of that particular request, that email, and be able to help you, draft up responses for that. And then you can also flag them as important and non-important items and do some filtering in there as well. And example number three is going to be a research agent. And I think this is the most time-saving use case for AI agents because research takes such a long time. There's so much information to go through, distill down, and really get to those actionable insights. So it can go and do all of the searching for you and pull all that information from various sources, wherever you need it from. It can then analyze that information, and it can even do some comparing against some existing data that you might have. Maybe you're looking to analyze and compare it against your existing proposals. Maybe you're looking to analyze and do that against some existing research that you've already done. Maybe you're trying to do that against some competitor data, right? Whatever that may be, you can provide that as context to compare your analysis that you just ran against something that you want to compare it to. And then you can get a recommendation or specific insights out of that and that comparison or whatever that analysis is, right? So you have all that available to you to get hours worth of work done in a matter of minutes. Now, I do want to provide a warning because there are mistakes that you can make as a beginner when it comes to making agents. And the first one is going to be really just trying to cram as many steps as you can, going all the way straight through to complete something from A all the way to Z, right? And that's great, but it's important to understand that the longer that chain of events is, the more places there are for things to break. So if you can break that agent down into multiple agents and say have steps A through B, or A through D rather, and then E through J, and then J through, T, whatever you have, right? But breaking that down and making it so that there are specific outputs that are going to be connected to another series of steps to produce another output and so on, and breaking that down into just different subtasks, if you will, that's going to have a much more successful output with your agent, and you're going to have a much better time managing it as well. The other part when it comes to making agents is having no structured process to begin with and then trying to just make an agent out of it. You don't want to do that either. You want to have a process in place. You want to have it manually drawn out. You want to do it manually so you have an idea of what steps are going to be taken, how those systems interact with each other, what information is needed at each step, and what outputs you actually want and what expectations you have of those outputs. And then really having vague guidelines and rules is going to also make your agent give you some wonky outputs, right? So if you need to refine those guidelines and rules and make sure you're very strict on that so that you have very refined outputs for your agent. And that keeps your outputs consistent, and it also keeps them predictable as well. And the last one here is just really automating chaos, right? If you don't, and I think this just encompasses everything we've already talked about, where there's no process or you have vague guidelines, you're really just going to be automating things for the sake of automating them, and you're going to get all types of crazy outputs, and you're going to make more work for yourself because you've got all this stuff that's just running rampant. So what do you build first? Well, before you build agents, you need to fix your systems. You need to map your processes, clean up your data, and you need to optimize them so you can run smoothly and efficiently and have predictable outputs. And once that is in place, and only once that is in place, then you can add AI agents to actually carry that workload forward. So the key takeaway here is that AI agents aren't employees, they're thinking procedures. And I'll say that one more time. AI agents aren't employees, they are thinking procedures. Now, if you want this done for you, you can get your free AI roadmap custom made for your business with the link down in the description. And you can also get a $50 free AI systems audit where I will fix your leak points, fix your operations, and build you an AI agent that actually works on that call, or at least get you a plan to do that. So if that's something you're interested in, click the link in the description. And if you want more AI clarity, hit the subscribe button.